all of us love to use order flow. All of us use it. We use it in different ways, and we use it for different things at different times. But that being said, we each pay a lot of attention to it. We each study it, and we try to execute on it without emotion. As traders, we try to leave that emotion out. So for me, order flow is like the heartbeat of the market analysis. It provides real-time insight into how the buyers and sellers are interacting. And each of us has chosen a different platform. So either being Quantower, ExoCharts, or Atis. And I'm sure many of you who are listening in now probably use one of those as well, or maybe use a different one, Sierra Charts or one of the others. But since we've each chosen a different path, I'd love to talk about a little bit about what makes each of those unique and how you guys as professional traders are using them to gain an edge and overall increase your probabilities when doing trade execution. So with that, I'd love to start with you, Igor, since you're so very passionate about your platform. Quantower seems to be a cornerstone of your trading. It seems to have become a cornerstone of your trading. What do you think was the turning point that led you to focusing on order flow, and how has that evolved your overall understanding in the markets, Igor?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if my screen is still being shared, but for me, just as you said, order flow is really well and truly the heartbeat of the market. And for me, it was always like, what's behind that candle? So, we are so familiar with the open, the high, the low, and the close, a bullish candle, a bearish candle, but what actually happens in that candle? And when you dive into technical analysis, you go around in a circle. You start with you test indicators, you test this, you test that, but then it all comes down to, that open, high, low, close, and the volume, because it's that auction process. So this is why, for example, and the community knows that I was an Atis absolute lover, because I just really loved the platform. But then over time, it became a bit glitchy and things like that. And then I tested Quantower because I really like to see what's happening. And this is just representing, this is the TPO here. This is representing a 30-minute candle. Okay, so each letter, so E will be a 30-minute candle, F will be a 30-minute candle, G as well a 30-minute candle. And for me, it was very much like, okay, so the market moves in auction. So, if there's buyers, price will go up until there's no more buyers. And then, vice versa. So you want to see that auction being followed with volume. So for example, right now, if we're dropping here, we want to see that volume increasing like 70, 80, 82. And then eventually that volume is going to dry up. And you can see the curve when it starts to dry towards the end of the move, and then the new auction will start to the other side. So for me, order flow, it's when you can actually see what's happening in that candle. And there's a lot of ways to obviously get this information. You can have the bid and the ask, you can have a proper chart showing the candles and the information inside, but you can just, for example, use just a simple 30-minute profile that shows what's happening inside that 30-minute auction, which in my opinion, being TPO, and I love TPO, it's actually a really nice way to look, because you don't get so drawn into the lower time frame noise, but you keep an overall look on the day time frame. So what's actually happening? What is the trend? What is the tempo? Where are we going? Where have we been? Are we one time framing higher, lower? So for me, it's having all of that kind of heartbeat right there in front of you always. And what I was going to say about Atis is that, for a long time, I was waiting for this to be there, and I was using it, but it was just so fiddly. And then I tried Quantower, and I was like, wow, this is just here. It does it every 30 minutes. I don't have to touch anything. It just does it automatically. Because when we're doing two markets, I mean, there's, it's twice the work. When you're doing BTC, that's 3 times the work every 30 minutes. So that's how I like to see it. And I like to see that in there. Obviously, we can talk as well about the tape and the time and sales and stuff. But for me, order flow, the core of the what happens inside that candle, that auction.
Wonderful. And thank you for that answer. And it's funny because one of the ways I actually discovered order flow was I was cruising on YouTube a couple years ago, looking for different trading videos, really kind of looking actually for signals or insights into how the market moves and what to be learning as a young budding trader. And I ended up coming across a video of Daniel speaking with one of the traders and chart champions. And it was like an interview. I think it was after one of the Bybit World Series trading competitions. We did well, and Daniel had interviewed one of our traders, and they were talking about volume and order flow and a delta and all these different things that I had no idea what they were, but it sounded really interesting and it sounded very professional, very sort of leveled up from the things I was looking at the time. And so, Daniel, I think my question for you, and I've also been a longtime user of ExoCharts. I don't quite use it so much anymore, but it's what I started on. It's where I built my first templates. But as a longtime user of ExoCharts for you, Daniel, what do you believe makes order flow really essential for your trading approach? And how do you think that has shaped your system overall as a trader?
Yes, yeah. So, yeah, I've really still stuck on Exo charts throughout the last few years. There's lots of new like options popping up, but for me, Exo charts is just the simple and sweet option that, for me, just gives me the key information that I need when it comes to like my style. So I think like yesterday was like the most perfect example of like why I like order flow. Um, and so, if you haven't watched the live stream that we done yesterday, you should really watch it, because then you could see the analysis like live in the time. But essentially, we were sat around here at 68,800. And then like on the 5 minute chart that we were on, we started to see big increases in price. So we were, let me just find it again. So yeah, we were around here on price. And so we started to see like these big open interest increases. Well, I remember it well, yeah. So we saw the 16 million delta, then followed by a 3.9, then followed by a 7 million. And this is while we're trading around 69,300, 400, 500. And so order flow, like for me, the most useful thing behind it is like being able to recognize when too short and when not too short, because I think that's the biggest difference between why you win and why you win and why you would lose trades. For example, you actually had a daily naked point of control at $69,512. And you've seen over the past few weeks, right, some daily naked point of controls, of course, the exact low and exact highs of moves, and that's where you've hit into that daily naked point of control and you've had a bearish reaction. But this time you go straight through the level, and the only reason you can know, when you get a bearish reaction or when you get a move like through the level, is it strong or not, is with the order flow. And yesterday, as we were approaching this level, like live in the time, we were looking at the order flow and saying, wow, this is a really, really bullish move. Why? Because of course, the overall trend is up anyway, but even locally, we're seeing increases in price with like good volume, relatively high volume up against what we were seeing. But the most important thing is that I'm looking at here is the open interest increases paired with the delta here. So let me just hide my face as well a second. So there you go. So this is what we were looking at, the open interest increases with the delta, and this for me just signals very bullish. So then when you make the decision of do you short, yes or no, well, if you're seeing this order flow, well, the answer would be no, because this is very, very, very bullish. So then obviously you hit $69,512. You didn't really get a reaction on the lower term time frame, but nevertheless, even from the order flow perspective, we were, remaining bullish up to, $70,000. So, for me with the order flow, like, I think I keep it fairly simple, and so I'm mainly just looking at the delta, volume, and open interests, and then using that information to. I'm very selective with my trades. So like yesterday, I had only one trade that I wanted to take, and it was the short around $70,000, which in the end we hit 70,000, and we actually got the pullback all the way in the end to like 68,600. So we had a relatively big pullback, to be fair. And so like being very selective on the trades, like I will take maybe one trade a day. I have to make sure that that's going to be a good trade, like very high probability trade. So I'm obviously looking for confluence in the actual chart itself, but then pairing that with order flow. So when we hit my levels, what I love to see, what I class as the most perfect order flow, is that you hit the level and you get trap longs above the high, and then you lose the level. So on the lower term time frame, That's what I'm looking for in the order flow. And obviously on the trading view chart, that looks like a wick to the upside. So from your wick, you want to actually see like new long, or I like to see new longs into the high, open interest increases, high positive delta. And then as you come back below that level, where you like to see then the point of control, obviously at the top of the move, as you come back below, that's where I would take my market entry order. And so it's kind of, I think it's kind of a simple playbook, but it's a simple, that's the only things that I'm really looking at, the open interest paired with the delta and the volume. And when it's moving up 3 levels like this is bullish. And this only becomes bearish when you then lose that level and you trade back down below. So when I'm looking for the aggressive entries, as we saw when this came above $70,000, we peaked to hit 70,300, and this is what I would call like not perfect order flow. So the order flow here wasn't really what gave me the entry, and this is where order flow is not 100% necessary. It helped me here not to short early, but I knew my target was $70,000, so I wasn't that interested anyway. But the order flow helped that bias. So this is saying very bullish, very bullish, very bullish, no short opportunities, everything still looks good, we're going to hit 70k. Then we hit 70k, we don't get any trapped longs, so this is what I would say the order flow wasn't perfect. Because I would love to have seen like this, you see these point of controls here, so this is point of control, this is point of control of the candle. I would have loved to have seen open interest increasing here with some positive delta, but it didn't happen, and it is what it is. So I made the decision to short at this candle here as we come below $70,000. Obviously in the end you start to get, you know, pullbacks, but yeah, this was a decision based more off of the fake out of 70k in the end than the order flow. But yeah, that would have been for me a perfect scenario, so to speak, if we had seen that open interest increase. But that just goes to show, I think, how order flow can help you remain patient for your target. All is looking good. And then even on the entry trigger, again, this was a profitable trade. Like, you don't need the order flow to be absolutely perfect. You know, this is what I would call neutral order flow. So there's no bullish or bearish signs at the very high. So you just trade the chart then, right? Which was a wick to the upside above 70k. So that then gives you the entry trigger. My entry was at 70,000, stop loss slightly around a high. And in the end I hit take profit 1 and take profit 2. So yeah, that's like a quick overview of like what I'm looking for, primary things I'm looking for on the order flow, like on the live in the time, and then pairing that of course with the actual Japanese candlesticks itself.
Yep, amazing. And one thing that I notice about all of you guys, and something that's really valuable to me, is seeing how you're not only, and just taking one step back, is not only how you're viewing the price action, but it's how you're able to incorporate your view of the price action into the context, the greater context of the market, and then using order flow to either, not going into the chart with a bias, but using order flow to help cement that bias, to help form that bias, and actually help inform yourself so that if the order flow is going against price action per se, it's not to say you can't take the trade, you just understand that the probabilities are changing a little bit. And it really does, and it takes a long time to form that sort of holistic view of the market. I think you guys have all done a wonderful job of doing that. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Severin, it's your turn. We all know that Severin, I believe, started out on exocharts. And when Severin moved over to Attis, what really struck me as interesting is that he actually, a lot of us used the wonderful templates that Igor had provided. And he provided some really, really amazing templates for us to start with. But one thing I noticed was that after some time, Severin started to develop his own templates. He started to put his own spin on things and actually make the charts exactly what he wanted to be, the specifications that he was looking for, the indicators that he needed. And I really, really, really loved how you did that, Severin. Sort of adopted it and created your own type of templates. And I think that was really wonderful. Obviously, Attis has been a big key in your trading. But let me just ask you this, Severin. What actually drew you to order flow in the first place? And how has that changed your overall approach to market day to day?
Yeah, so just as you were already saying, so order flow is one of my major things I look at when trading. So what I like about order flow is that unlike traditional charts, so the candlestick charts that we all know, in order flow, we can actually see why the price is moving because it's showing real-time buying and selling. And to tell a story how I found out about order flow, It was actually a few years ago. So some of you know I was trading before I was a member of Chart Champions, and I was in a long trade. So I was in a long trade on Bitcoin, and I was checking YouTube. So I was sitting in the car with my brother, he was driving, and I was one of the guys. When I was in a trade, I just had to check what other traders are doing. I was on YouTube. Everyone was saying, okay, Bitcoin is going to the moon, everything is bullish. And then I came across my first video of Daniel, and he was looking at order flow, and he said, yeah, there is bearish divergence, I'm looking for a short trade. And I was like, wait a second, what is this guy looking at? That looks incredible. And he is saying he's looking for short trades. Everyone else is saying he's looking for long trades. And I remember I was telling my brother, wow, this guy really knows what he's on about. Look at these charts, they just look amazing. And actually what attracted me was the complexity, because I was like, yeah, that looks so fascinating. I have no idea what these numbers actually mean, but it looks nice. I was like, I'm curious to learn about this, just because the complexity of it was so amazing. And then when I reviewed some more videos of Daniel, I was connecting the dots, and I was like, all right, okay, I know about the statistic that above 90% of traders lose money. When you go to YouTube, more than 90% only look at candlesticks. And there was this one guy, that was Daniel, who was looking at order flow. And I was like, yeah, he probably has the edge. That is why he is giving these amazing calls. So there has to be something to it. And yeah, that was the moment I saw this video, I was all in about order flow. And I would say, I don't want to say mastered it, because I obviously can still learn more about order flow, but that was the day I tried to incorporate order flow and try to develop it over and over again. So now I have amazing templates, if you ask me, that helps me with precision for my entries and for the ones following my daily plans or my stock market updates. Nowadays, all of my daily plans are actually based off order flow. So all of the levels I'm looking at for trading, they are all from my ATAS templates. Everything is based off the actual volume that is moving the markets. And what I learned, so what I would say the main thing that changed for me is reducing the hope part in trading. So many people, when they see or look at a chart, they hope that price is going in their favorite direction. And for me, when looking at order flow, I can look at real data, seeing if my trade is supported or not. So I think it helps greatly in terms of the precision of your entries.
I couldn't agree more. And if anything, as you said, when you first look at order flow, it almost looks confusing. You don't quite understand it. You want to know what's going on, but there's so many numbers moving around, and you're just not quite sure what the colors mean and how everything relates. But once you do get some basic mastery, it really, really becomes an informative tool, a tool that it's not a biased tool. You know, the tape is the tape. It's not telling you its opinion. It's telling you the facts. It's giving you the data. And I think that's so important as traders, that we can get an unbiased view of what the market's doing, because as traders, we're all subject to our own personal biases, whether that be for the long side or for the short side or for macro or for micro, whatever time frame you're looking at, we do all have those biases. And so I think that order flow, as you pointed out, really can become a pivotal tool for a lot of traders in order to gather data that's accurate and informative, and also be more precise with trading entries. So I really appreciate that insight there, Seth. All right, Mr. Igor. So we know you love Quantower, and we know Quantower is super flexible. It's one of the most flexible, most I would say functional trading software that I've ever used. So my question to you is, what templates or strategies have you found most effective in Quantower in order to find actionable trade setups?
Yeah, for me in Quantower, it's gotta be the combination of the TPO charts with the DOM surface, which is like a bookmap feature that they have. So putting these two, and you're looking at them, if I'm sharing my screen now, or if you're sharing my screen, you can see. So on the left, I've got the TPO chart, and then on the right, I've got the DOM surface, as well as the a tape, time and sales, on the far right. And then in between, I've got just the DOM. I like to keep an eye on the DOM as well, because you can quickly look at the ladder and see like the orders without having to zoom in and check here on the DOM surface. But having an understanding of TPO and knowing where the set level. So for example, like when you go into your daily plan, you want to always look to the previous day and see where, okay, where's the previous session? Well, today, obviously, this is the NQ. We actually have a massive gap. So with TPO charts, it basically organizes your data, and Quant Tower has been really, really good at making this chart really easy to understand for any trader. So you've got like all of these lines are untested, or as we would say, naked values, naked opens, and then closes. So you've got the settlement, the close, you've got the open, and the single prints as well as you can see the finished auctions highs and lows, excess or no excess, point of control. So you have your references as well as, where was yesterday's value, lower, higher, etc. So what I like about the way Quant Tower made and implemented some things here is, like, for example, we have like these little yellow letters represent the equilibrium or the midpoint of the previous session, or the alpha back. And there's a lot of ways we can do this, but you basically have an overall view of the complete day, the session, including the initial balance, with just a one quick glance. And for me, this is just such a saver of time. So you don't have to open too many charts. You can just have this on one window, and you can understand exactly what's going on here on this market, from the open, a little move down, and then since B session, it's been like obviously breaking the initial balance high. Obviously, that's being a little bit more bullish. You do have a deep retracement on D session, but you basically, since D session, you're one time framing higher, and every time it comes in, you get booked by support. But it's when, like in terms of strategies, it's when you combine that, so the levels that you get from TPO, which is like the previous day's levels, the current day levels, as well as implementing them on the right. For example, here you can see NQ. And NQ was like trading down here. And you can see that it has like a magnet. So you've got two things here. Bullish bias, because the market is one time framing higher. And then you look at the real heartbeat that we spoke earlier. It's the real orders, what's making this market move higher, for example. And you can see that these markets, they are like magnets towards liquidity. And liquidity is just those orders that are resting there on the book. So for example, right now there's about 300 lots there on NQ. On ES sitting at 5,943. On ES there was, and I can push this up, there was 134. And look, the market came and filled it. So when you're trading and you're done here, for example, what I like to do is, on a bullish market, I like to look for those pullbacks. There's a lot of ways you can do it. You can have a chart and even monitor like a moving average, for example. But typically you want to see that next 30-minute period. Once it starts to come back in, you want to see that rotation start to dry up. You want to see those sellers start to like fade, and then you will see that on the volume. As well as here, you want to make sure that towards the last part, at least a nice order has been filled, just like here. And look at that, for example, on the short side, like the market went to that order, and as soon as it had the business done, all right, I'm not interested in going out here anymore, and then boom, it has this little nice rundown. So the market is seeking. So having these two together and making sure that those orders are actually being filled is just such a very, very powerful tool. And I do have a couple of examples here, actually. I'm going to just move my chart over and I'm going to expand this. So I've got a couple of examples here, which is you have a chart, an asset that it's coming down still. So this is previous price. It's coming down, and then we have not at that time hit that low. So that's the previous RTH low. So I'm looking at that, and then on the SF or the DOM surface, I'm looking at that. I've got TPO on the left. I can see that there's yesterday's low. I'm looking at that, and the low is still down here. And I'm looking at that thinking, okay, well, if we can have another rotation higher and, the sellers stop popping again, you can see that like nice bright line. And as soon as I see that confirmation, I want to get into that trade. And then I got into that trade around like that 135, and then took it just for a quick scalp down to the lows. And that was the result here. So I took that little short just below, but I was able to see what was actually happened on the market. Without this information, I would have been like, it's really close to the low. I might not short it. But having this information, I was like, okay, the market is still once lower. Let's go and take that low. So that gave me like that nice confluence for a nearly $300 profit. And then here, there's another example. You can see the market likes to go from one side of the market in terms of liquidity to the other. So here we're going higher. Look at that. All of the orders filled, and these quite small orders. And the next one below price. So you finish business to the upside, 4 lots filled, and then you go lower. And this one again, we then come down, and it's just like being able to then like take the trades as the market is moving higher from one rotation. Obviously here I've got this expanded as well, so I can see that failed or finishing auction to the upside with the 30-minute profile. You can see as soon as it gets there, it starts to really run dry and then comes back below, and you can wait a little bit to be a bit more patient, get into the trade, and then take it to the other side. And these are just like tiny scalps, but if you're very patient, you can wait, a few hours, and at least 1 or 2 times a day, you will find a couple of these. And that is just combining both like the TPO with all of your levels right there. The levels that you have really good statistics. And then when you move over to the right and you've got like the real order, because it's very good having like a point of control, for example, here at 5,905, but then as price is coming through that level, there's no orders there. I'm not going to take profits or shorter. I'm just going to wait for that big liquidity, which is a little bit higher. For example, that liquidity could be at 5,910. So by having the real heartbeat, I'll be a little bit more selective, a little bit more patient, and in turn, take those trades a little bit longer. So staying in the market a little bit longer rather than just closing too prematurely. And this is just an example of a couple of trades taken from the DSF. So it's nice to see, obviously, this in action. But yeah, there you go.
Excellent. And just a couple more things I wanted to add to that, because I'm also using the TPO chart right next to the DOM surface. And a couple of things that I wanted to mention and that you passed by. I think the initial balance is one of the best tools that we can use in order to determine daily direction, and especially after the New York Open and the hour subsequent. That's something I've really been paying a lot of attention to, like a retest of the IB high or retest of the IB low. There ends up being a lot of action put in there. And one of the things I love about the DOM surface is, and if you don't know exactly what the DOM surface is, it's essentially just a visual version of the ladder, so the DOM. So you can see orders that are being either added or pulled from the chart. And so typically there'll be a big order above price and a big order below price. And as price moves, those orders will also move with it. So you can see the bigger players adjusting their targets. And typically they're either hitting key levels, they're hitting round numbers, or they're hitting big pockets of liquidity. And that has been so helpful for me. And I'm sure it has been for you too, Igor, on figuring out where my trade targets can be. And typically if I'm looking at the chart, I can pick out a nice little area on my regular trading view. But then when I zoom in and I look at the DOM surface, and I also see at my key level, I see some liquidity sitting there, I know it's going to be a higher probability of that price running to liquidity, because as we know, price loves to seek liquidity. And that's been really insightful for me using Quant Tower as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly the same way I see it. And it's just been evolving. And sometimes, and we've done it like when we're doing live streams and we're all doing this together, sometimes I just look at it and you just have that kind of intuition. You look at the orders resting down there and you can see them, like, for example, right now. So at 20,810, they've been adding a lot there and then removing and then flashing back up. So they're trying like, you can just see it there. And sometimes you can see that the market has higher targets anyway. Let's say we are going to go to at least 30s now. But sometimes this market can be very clever. Before it gets to 30s, it will come down here, sweep those 10s first into that pocket of liquidity, and then go back up. And sometimes it's just unexplainable. You can't really explain it. You just see the orders flashing there. You know the activity is there. The market will go there, seek it, take the 10s, and then go up to the 30s. And we've seen this many times happen. And it's just by that repetition, just keep here every day, day in, day out, just trading, looking. And typically you can see it. The market will go to where that nice liquidity is, fill the liquidity. And look, just out of the for the context, like, for example, these like turning points, especially during London session, which moves a little bit slower, like, for example, let's say you went with a, with a 100% accuracy there on this trade. We're talking about like a $400 drop, so that's quite a nice drop. And typically, there's an average ticks per liquidity depending on the size. And so yeah, there are trades to be taken around that liquidity, because the market then tends to react, especially if you have a nice confluence there, like a previous day high, initial balance back test as well, which is very good. But yeah, it's a good one. So yeah, I do like Quantaro for that, because it's got the whole thing in one platform. So I don't have to buy Bookmap. I don't have to have a special other software to look at all of the things here. And Quantaro has been very helpful in adding a few more things that I've been working with them, and it's been really nice. So yeah, I think I've got a great sort of like view of the market by using these three things here.
And last thing I'll add to this, the DOM surface, it is a tick chart, I believe. So it shows in real time the raw data and actually raw market structure too. So you can see on a very, very low, the lowest time frame possible, not even on a time based, but tick based, you can see the changes in market, the higher highs, the lower lows, the pockets of liquidity. And so for me, that's just a plus tool, and one that I highly recommend. If you're not interested in it, at least check it out and see if it's something that works for you in your trading.
And let me just add one more thing. So sometimes during events and news data's releases, sometimes, well, pretty much all the time, there's even a better type of information that you can get out of this that you wouldn't necessarily see on the ladder, because it's just, you'd have to have the best memory, like photographic memory for like tick by tick of the market, which is pretty much impossible. What you get, and Scott, this, and even you, Severin, because like, for example, I went on holiday and I came back from holiday and I could see that the spread on NQ was just so big. Like you could see that we had like 6, 10, 15 ticks at times, and there was just no liquidity. I'm trying to zoom in so you can see these darker points here, and this is when there's no liquidity. So basically the market will be just chopping up and down because there's no limit orders holding price above or below. And I came back from holiday and I looked at that and I was like, wow, what a spread. If you mark it in, there's no chance it's going to fill you where you want it to fill. It could be filled 30 ticks above price, which is quite a big slippage, right? And it gives you that information real time. So if you come into the market and you're looking at this, you just have so much information at your disposal that it will give you just a better probability of not taking trades that you shouldn't be taking. And you can see every time there's a news event. I mean, on ES it's probably a little bit better to see, but I wish there was one now I could really show it live. But you will see that this whole area will go really dark, and okay, well, just step away a little bit. Even if you're on a trade, consider it closing, because the market can just chop through 100 ticks like in a flash. And that's why, for example, FOMC, CPI, you will just see that this will just become like really dark, meaning there's no orders above or below. So that's a really, really nice piece of information that you can have real live time there. So I just wanted to add that again.
Absolutely. And we will have a potential opportunity to see that tomorrow with the FOMC rate decision. That is about 4.5 hours after New York. So if we are around, I would be happy to take some screenshots and show what that DOM actually looks like. And you can see it really, and that's why you see price whip around so much during those times, because there's really, like you said, there's just no limit orders there to catch price. Alrighty, and moving on to Mr. Daniel. So I think we all know that you are a big fan of ExoCharts. You've used it for many, many years with great accuracy. So my question for you is, what tools do you rely on in ExoCharts? What are your favorites? And how overall do you think they help you to pinpoint good trading setups?
Cool, yes. So for me on EXO, the main things I go for are the naked pointer controls, or viewing it as a TPO profile as a whole, but also, looking at the value area high, value area low of the day, week, and monthly. But bread and butter, I think the right word is just looking for the daily naked pointer controls. Like, they're extremely, this is up for Bitcoin. Obviously, I'm only trading Bitcoin, so yeah, I think like ExoCharts, you can look at futures, I think, but I'm pretty sure it's not very good for futures. But for Bitcoin, this is really nice. You just look at the daily naked pointer controls, and these are really well respected for the daily, weekly, and monthly. And I'm looking at them on different ticks. So for the daily, I'm looking at so I've done statistics of what I feel like from a statistical standpoint are the best ticks, and I've come to the conclusion it's 50 ticks on daily, 60 ticks on weekly, and 100 ticks on the monthly. But I will sometimes be looking at the 1 tick. I was looking for 1 tick, 2 ticks, 10 ticks, and then obviously for the 50 ticks on the daily. And I'll do the same on the weekly and the monthly, 1, 2, and 10. But yeah, nevertheless, I found these ticks work the best, and they get really well respected. For example, the when was this price action? When we put in the highs, I can't find it right now, but yeah, we put in a high at 69. There we go, at 69,500. This was back on. Oh man, I'm not lost it on the chart. Oh, no, it was a daily, actually. Sorry, we actually put a daily. It was a daily that we had at 69,500, and then we had the move to the upside to hit 69,500. We pulled back to the daily naked pointer control, which we had at 60. Oh, I need to look back on my charts, but I remember it was the high and the low of the move, but I can't remember the exact day that it was. I remember it was over the last few weeks anyway. But nevertheless, where I'm going with this is that these are like the things that I'm looking at the most, just the daily naked pointer controls within exo charts for the TPO like kind of viewpoint. And then I'm looking over on these profiles for the delta, the open interest, and then using things like the previous day value area highs, value area lows, and the daily open. These are obviously just day trading like templates, so you'd only use this. I need to move my face a second. These are things that you'd only use on like lower term time frame day trades, but nevertheless they're also can give really nice trades. And actually this template I like a lot. So this is it is a template that I've shared like probably 6 months ago, like quite a long time ago, and I like this template a lot because it has all of the levels on the right hand side, and I'm not looking to trade all these levels, but what I look for is like clusters of when a lot of things line up together. And I also like this more towards like the 10th 11th of the month onwards. Like today is the 6th of the month, so like for example, like the monthly VWAP is not so important on the 6th of the month because the month has only just started, right? But you know, as you approach like the 10th 11th of the month onwards, then these levels become really well respected. So if you can see like a monthly VWAP lining up with, you know, what would be at a time potentially like a previous day point of control, let's say, or the weekly VWAP, you know what I'm going about. You want to see confluence at those levels, not just one thing on its own. But I love this template a lot because it just instantly you can see where there's clusters, and then you obviously have to like, you know, understand what are all these levels, like how far through the month are we, or how far through the week are we. But you know, you could have you know, a really nice support level lining up via this template that is not really visible when you look at TradingView. When you look at TradingView, you might think, oh, there's nothing there at all, like I've got no support. But then when you look at this template, you can see, oh, actually I have the monthly VWAP on the previous week VWAP. So you know, that's a pretty nice support confluence there around 70,500. So it just like is a quick way of recognizing really important levels actually on the previous day point of control there, which I'm not saying it's impossible to do on TradingView, but let's just say it's not really the standard way of using TradingView looking at these levels. I'm sure there's a way probably to look at you know, monthly VWAPs, etc. But I think this template is just all in one, and it's just all in the right place and easy to get to and understand. So yeah, I would say that's like, and obviously what I mentioned earlier, like looking at the delta with the open interest increases, that's like a key more lower term time frame or like live in the time, like order flow viewing. But when I'm like making my daily plans, these are the templates that I'm using to like formulate the plans of saying, okay, we pull back to this level. This is where I'm going to be looking for the long trade, and I'm using these levels to know, well, this is really good support, I'll look to long there, or likewise, oh, this is really good resistance, I'll look to short there. Of course, we don't really have any resistance above us right now, but you know, this is what I'd use to long. And I think like what I think is really interesting about us as coaches is that we're all using different software, and like at the end of the day, it goes to show that in trading you just need to find something that works for you. And it's the same with like your actual strategy, right? Like we were saying yesterday how our RSI and MACD sucks, but if you can make it work for you and you can make money, then that's all that matters, right? So I think a lot of people always question like, what is the best order flow software? And I would say, yeah, whatever works for you, really. You can make your own decisions. I would say ExoCharts is the most simple, and then maybe like Quant Tower is the most full on, you can get everything that you want, and then maybe Atus is like the happy medium, so to speak. I think ExoCharts is not good for futures traders, so if you're a futures trader, I probably wouldn't use ExoCharts. But for crypto, if you want to keep it like simple, then this is really good. But then if you want to make it more complex and add in more moving parts, then you know you'd look at Atus or Quant Tower. But yeah, for me though, those are the key templates that I'm using, along with of course the lower term time frame order flow. But just last thing I would say is I do prefer to look at that on Exo Web rather than Exo Desktop still. But yeah, all the same at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And for those of you watching now, this template here, these templates that Daniel was showing, I think these are the origin pretty much for myself. I'll speak for myself here, maybe for Severin as well. I know Igor maybe did some stuff with Atus before, but ExoCharts was really the origin for all of us. And so throughout all of these, you see some common threads, you see some common themes, and you see some common indicators, and maybe even some colors that look similar. But this is where it all started. And it all started from Coach Daniel introducing us to ExoCharts with BTC, you know, and that all-in-one template. I remember I used to have that as well in the CCV setups. So much good value from all those. And so if you're not interested in order flow now, maybe it might be a time just to crack the page open and you know, read the first chapter, because it's a really interesting book. And I think you could tell from all of us how passionate we are about it, that it really has helped our trading a ton. So thank you, Coach Daniel.
Thank you.
I think Daniel actually started with Sierra. Do you remember, Daniel?
I did
yeah.
remember Sierra
Yes,
shots.
you remember?
I
Yes.
forgot all about Sierra shots. Yeah, that's
Yes.
that's been abandoned.
Yeah, you started with that. I remember your TPO chart was so cool, and I remember you merging profiles left, and I was like, wow, that is just incredible. And back then we were like stuck in a range on BTC, and those value highs and lows with the point of controls were just absolutely mint. So a friend of mine told me about Atus, and I installed Atus, and it was just like magic, instant magic, because Sierra Charts was very fiddly. I mean, amazing software, but just so many menus hidden. And Atus was just like, do whatever you want with it. It's like open book for, you know, get your own scripts in, do whatever you want, basically change the layouts. I mean, everything was customizable and still is. And that's why I really love Atus. But yeah, you started with Sierra Charts, and I remember looking at the DOM, and you were like seeing the stacking and pulling on the orders on BitMEX, and I was like, wow, that is cool. And I literally just dove straight in. I went nuts. Order flow, and then it really took off from there, really. But yeah, those point of controls, TPO, right? Especially if you remember when they were confluent with volume. Oh, amazing.
No, that actually brings it back to memory. I forgot that I was using all that on extra charts, and then on Sierra charts originally. Yeah, and then obviously I remember looking at bookmap. Obviously, the bookmaps like not really needed anymore. But I remember looking at all those things back in the day.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I remember very well. I really do. Yeah, and you had the classic. So the classic TPO. If you just share my screen very quickly, I'm on the TPO chart on Quant Tower, and we have this amazing sort of like it's like a what is this? Like an orange, isn't it? Greeny orange. And
Yeah.
it just really paints the picture. And you had them like, I remember you were just like merging left, and you were just, merging all the profiles and finding the real like meaty juice, proper setups. And I was like, that's what I want to learn. That's what I want to do. I tried Sierra and I was like, this is just way too like fiddly. But yeah, we had this and I was like, yeah, that's nice. And the market really moves around these value highs and lows, especially with TPO point of control. So now outstanding work you did back then. So yeah, but yeah, brilliant. Just want to put that in there because I remember clearly you doing the Sierra charts
Yeah,
before.
you remembered better than me, to be fair. Yeah, I forgot. You forgot. I totally. Yeah, that's funny.
I know. You know what? I've got vivid memories of trading BitMEX and looking at this point of control, especially the 9K range. And I've spoken about this before, and it was just like amazing. Honestly, it was really, the respect was just insane. Like you couldn't make it up. It was just every day, same thing, same day, and it was very much like, remember like the 618 or the CC or the 786. There was always a flavor of the month or the week back then because the open interest was a bit higher, and it just worked. It was really good.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Good old BitMEX days.
Yes. Leaderboard. Nice one.
Well, last but not least, Severin, I would love to hear a little bit about your experiences with Attis, and really what was the turning point for you when you have been reading volume and delta maybe for a few years now, but you really have gotten entrenched in Attis, and I feel like you use it really, really well in order to form your daily plans. So what do you think, how has Attis enhanced your ability to read order flow, and then how does it play into your daily trading plans like you mentioned?
Yeah, so just as Daniel was saying, so if you are still using exocharts, in my opinion, that's totally fine when trading crypto, because I used to use exocharts as well. So the only reason that made me transition to Attas was that trading futures on exocharts was a little bit glitchy. So I asked them to implement some changes and updates, but that never happened, unfortunately. So that made the transition to Attas necessary for me, because there have been just too many glitches with incorrect levels and all that. But for trading crypto, that's absolutely fine. But what I already tried to do on Exo is have the cleanest templates that I possibly can. So it took me a very long time to customize that on Attas. But what I'm trying to do here is, so we are looking at a bid-ask cluster. This is where I am making all of my decisions. I've built entire strategies based off this order flow template. And what I want to do here is support myself as much as I can by visually creating these templates as simple and obvious as it can be. So for me, when I'm trading, it's very important to look at buy and sell blocks. So these are clusters of large sell volume or large buy volume, for example. And the way I created these templates is that I don't really have to look at the exact numbers. I can just look at these blocks. It's highlighted here, for example. I can clearly see this is a massive sell block. That is a nice reference point. One of my strategies, look at the close of this candle, look at the retest. So I can't go too much into detail here. I have complete lessons on this, but you can see we don't really have to read the exact numbers. I can see 263 inside, 329 shorts, 211, 170, but that's not even necessary. It's visually so clean and structured that I just have to look at this big box, which is highlighted, and then I can make a decision. So for me, it's, as I already said, the precision, but also how quickly I can make a decision, because these boxes are formed so quickly and easily that, yeah, to me nowadays it feels second nature. I don't have to focus to even see that. It's just simple. So I would say the simplicity of Attas is amazing, because I would agree to Daniel. So Attas is a little bit of an upgrade from exocharts. You can customize your charts a little bit more. Maybe it doesn't have all the features that Quantower has, but for me, for now, that's all I need, to be honest with you. So it significantly enhanced my trading. I'm using this template for, I would say, 100% of my trades on futures, to be honest. So I don't use it for every single trade on crypto, but on futures, there's barely a trade that I would take without checking the order flow. And what's great about these softwares as well, and that is one advantage over Exo as well, is we can actually open the chart trader, so we can trade directly through our order flow software. So it's not that we have to change to a different platform, to a different web browser or whatever. I can take the trade in here to not miss a single second by switching software, for example. So that to me is very handy. I love it. And yeah, I can only recommend to at least giving order flow a try. What I would say though is that it does take time to get used to order flow, because in the first place, it might feel overwhelming, and it's actually interesting. But I was on a long vacation. So I was away for 3 weeks, and before my vacation, we had the Dubai event. So I wasn't looking at order flow. And when I came back, I realized how exhausting it actually is to look at order flow, because when we do that day in, day out, it's like, yeah, it's normal day in the office, so to speak. But when you take a break, you come back and actually realize, wow, that's a lot of data to process. So that's what I would say. If you start out with order flow, give it a fair amount of time, don't rush anything, and always practice on demo, because in the beginning it can feel a little bit overwhelming. But that being said, so for me, I would honestly say 100% of my entries are based off order flow when I'm trading futures. But for you, Scott, I know that you are also always using order flow. When we are doing the live trading streams, I can always see your quant hour up. Is there ever an entry you take without looking at order flow at all nowadays?
Well, it's hard because I've got my entry screen right next to my order flow. And so I'd say on futures, probably not. Most of the time I'm referring to the order flow, at least looking over at the delta to understand if the delta that's coming into the market is going to support my trade idea, or if it's moving against my trade idea. But I would say one of the things that recently I've been doing more of is trading off of, the 3 candle entry that you've mentioned. And I do think that order flow plays a very important role, because in the 3 candle entry, we're looking for the arrival candle, the reversal candle, and then the entry candle. And in that reversal candle and in the entry candle, is very important to notice what's going on in the order flow, because if the order flow isn't agreeing with our trade setup, then it's really no trade there to be had. So I would say no, probably on futures, I'm probably using order flow with 100% of my trades these days. Now, every once in a while, maybe I'm looking at my trading view and I just see a really juicy trading setup and I don't have my quant tower pulled up and I can just enter from my phone. I'll do that occasionally, but I will say that the best setup for me is when I'm sitting down, I've had time to focus, I've had time to do my plans and really assess what the market is doing and where it's trying to go. And then I'll make a decision based off of the order flow that's given in the actual time, where the price is hitting my key level. But for crypto, actually, not so much anymore. I don't use as much order flow on crypto, just basically trading the price action. And on BTC, we know it loves seeking liquidity, taking SFPs. And so that's been, I think, a huge plus for me, is just knowing the markets a little bit better. But that being said, if I were to be trading altcoins, specifically for like swing trading positions, I think I would want to use some order flow just to get an insight of the high time frame value areas. Because for me on crypto, the high time frame value areas are really, really, really mint, especially those POCs and those naked values. But yeah, I would say probably 100% of my trades on futures, maybe 99% are taken using order flow. And then some on crypto, maybe 50% are used without order flow. So yeah, thank you for asking.
No, that's nice. Yeah. Major advantage looking at order flow.
I think so. And to your point, it does require quite a bit of focus. And I think we get so used to it. We're so used to looking at it day in and day out that it's easy to make those decisions based off what we see right in the moment. But it does take months and months and months, maybe even years of reading order flow to get that sort of sixth sense of how you're going to read the market and what that means for your trades. But with all of that said, I think we are getting close to the end of our discussion, and we would love to take some of your questions. If that's okay with you guys, coaches, do you still have time for a few questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
I actually took a quick scalp short while you were talking because I got a big order filled at 850, so I scalped a short just back down. I was hoping to get this down to the 30s, so let's say 35s. So I'm cooking $160 now. But yeah, let's see what happens.
Nice, man. And really quick, if you don't mind me asking, what asset is that trade
It's
on?
NQ, yeah, on the NQ.
And you said a big
But
order was filled. So did you see something in the DOM that made you enter, or what was the entry trigger for you on this one?
Right, I'll share the screen. So it's still on here. Let me make sure. Let me know if it's sharing. I'm not sure, but let me know. Yeah, so you can see here. So we came up and we filled that big order up there. So we filled the order and we lingered here, but there was no activity. All the active, there you go. So we basically target 35. So I can now move this slower. And this is what I like to do. I like to box in that price action. So I don't close my trade because there you go. You can drop a little bit further and then I can have a little runner there. So target was a little bit below the 35s, but we did hit the 30. So that was kind of like what I wanted to say. There you go, stopped. But what I saw was this. So we came up here and look, exactly what I was saying earlier. I would like to put the question out to you and to something that I mentioned before even explaining this. But basically, I'm looking for those finished auctions at the high. And what did I say? What was the ingredient I said earlier? I don't know if you guys paid attention, but if you did, I mean, you could have locked 260 quid or 300. And there you go. So I'm looking for that volume tapering off. Look at that. It's only 7 lots at the very high compared to 280, 1,200, and then 2K, and then the point of control there. So you get that kind of like finishing auction with the dry sort of volume to the end, but you get that as well. So you basically go into it and you clean the liquidity, that's step one, fade with no volume, come back inside and unable to claim it. So that's the short trade, and you come down to the 30s. So you go from, the 50s all the way down to the 30s. Sometimes what I like to do is just box in that trade. So instead, like I did here, so instead of closing the trade at target, I will just push my stop loss right close to it, like to the previous swing high, if it's a short trade, and then just box in, and follow that price down. Because often, especially on NQ, what can happen is price will just go through the level and give us another like $100, $200, $300 sometimes. And if it's good support, then it comes back inside and then goes to the next level, which is 55 now. So that was just a quick example on what I was just saying earlier about that, the ability to have everything in your disposal. So yeah, there you go. That was a quick.
That was a really great example and a nice little flash there on the DOM surface. And for me, if you could just scroll back over to the green bubble, I think that's that's kind of important because you see the high time frame liquidity sitting there, not high time frame, but you see the big liquidity sitting there, the red band. Well, somebody tried to buy through that, and their market longs got absorbed, in my opinion, got absorbed by limit shorts, and so their price could no longer move higher. You see the move slightly above it to test, and then a swift move back below. And so that's super fascinating, and that's something that you can. It's really actionable type of stuff. So.
And you can see that this was not just a normal order. I mean, I've got this, as I've explained to the champion members, I've got the bubbles really set low, but I know that's a big order because anything that shows it's massive. I just want to be able to see tick back tick, the heartbeat of the market, as we spoke earlier. So these bubbles are actually really large. That's a 224 lot. That's on NQ. That's massive. And then the one above is 268, both filled. Okay, so that's massive. So if I just change the size of that, you can see how big this is. So when you see that, someone was sat here with a big limit order and absorbed that. So yeah, it's just one way to make a few bucks by just being able to see this live in the action. So yeah, there you go. There's a quick trade set up. But yeah, perfect.
And that really
Yeah.
goes to show how order flow can give you the edge, because you were looking at the orders. That was the first indication. And then you can even pair it with other data, because we can see on this DSF, we see the previous lows taken, then we do the 7.5 retest, and then we drop. So very low time frame.
That's not to be shared. That's the secret sauce.
I'm sorry, cut that out.
Cut that out. Because we're going to 55s now.
That's good. That's good. Well, thank you for that. So with that, maybe we can jump into some of our questions. And I think the first one is from Congo, and it's for Igor. Hey, Igor, what is the initial balance?
The initial balance is the first to 30-minute trading period. So you have, and I have it as a bar, so it will show as a bar here. So I'm just going to zoom out a little bit so you can see. So you have, this is the RTH open. So this is the regular trading hours open, and that's for my time is 14:30, which is the New York. I think is that 8:30? Is it 8:30 or 9:30?
9:30.
9:30, yeah, that's it. So yeah, so that's the open there. We obviously moved down a little bit, okay, into the 20,064. So you've got the low of the session. So that's the initial balance low, and then you run all the way back up. You make the actual high of the initial balance. It was in the A session. So the A session actually made the low and the high. And then B session open down here around the B, I think there. No, actually down here, all the way down here. So we open, we just went down a little bit, and then we ran all the way back up, but we weren't able to take the initial balance high. So that initial balance high at the time during B, we closed right at the top there, open C, and then we came all the way down C, all to value low. Wow, look at that. That was a really nice run on C session, which is probably the 75% of the whole range, as you were saying there, Severin. Nice confluence. And then boom, you go back and take the high. So the initial balance is those two periods. So A and B. When you expand the profile, you are looking at a 30-minute trading bar. So bar 1, bar 2, bar 3, bar 4, and so on and so forth. Okay, and look at that H period. That trade down to the 10s actually was the halfback of G. It's incredible. See?
It's nice to see these markets being so technical, and appreciate that answer.
And go, there's the 55 hit. And look what you see there. So again, this is the hedge, right? You got the big orders fill at the top, you got the big order fill at the bottom, and then it runs to the next slot. It's really cool. And yeah, you can see the next. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's working really well today, so it's showing off for us.
Yes, must be
Daniel,
the election.
Yeah, it must be. Daniel, quick question for you from T in Trading. When looking at open interest on exo charts, do you look at positive open interest, or do you also look at the total number of open interest increasing?
So yeah, I'm mainly just looking at the, like, is the open interest increasing or decreasing? I'm not looking at the open interest specifically of it as it increased by 1 million, 2 million. Like obviously I actually think that exo charts is actually glitched. Surprise, typical exo charts. But I do think that their open interest is glitched. So I really wouldn't actually look specifically at the open interest in terms of the indicator here. All I would look at is the delta, and then just visually see, is open interest increasing or decreasing? That I would look at. But the number, looking at it here within the open interest, I'm not looking at. I'm looking at the delta. And from within here, I'm then just looking, okay, 16 million plus delta, 16 million plus delta open interest increase. Again, I really do think that this open interest is glitched. And I've actually reached out to EXO several times now, and they refused. They don't actually reply to me anymore. So it's probably not,
dear.
yeah, it's not good, to be honest. I do need to make the switch to Quantal.
Yeah, I've got the templates ready for you. Just let me know when they're ready.
Well, let's get it sorted next week then, I guess. Because yeah, I've been giving them a chance, but they really are. I think they know it's glitched, and they just don't want to admit it. So anyway, but for me anyway, to answer the question, yeah, I'm not really looking at the exact numbers here. I'm just looking positive, negative, and I'm using the main the actual delta as information that I believe is correct, and this open interest I do think is glitched. This is correct because it's the same across all different platforms, but this open interest I'm 99% sure is glitchy. So of course if it was correct I would look at it, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not. So yeah, I'm just looking, is it open interest increase, decrease, and then using the delta I can work out how much that number should be, rather than looking at EXO, because I don't think it's right. But yeah, that's what I'd say.
Cool. And while we're on the topic, there's another question on exocharts from Michelle, and she's curious about what time frame chart are you using to find daily NPOCs?
Yes, so on the template that I got on the daily chart, oh yeah, you can't see this, can you? Let me move my screen down a little bit. There you go. Yeah, so you can see it. I forgot that I cut the top of my screen off, but it's actually on the 30-minute viewpoint there. So 30-minute viewpoint on obviously a daily TPO chart, but it's taken using 30-minute, and then I've got it on 50 ticks. And TPO on 50 ticks as well. So yeah, I forget that I have the top of my screen cut off, but yeah, the 30 minute, then on the weekly this is from 4 hour, and then on the monthly it's from daily perspective. So yeah, you can copy those settings if you want.
Cool. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Severin, one question I think would be good for you, and this is a really good practical question from Munir. Should we subscribe to level 2 data separately for each platform, TradingView, Quantower, Atlas, or will a subscription to just one platform suffice and can be used across both?
So you can use the level 2 data subscription for Atlas, for example. Then you don't really need it on a different platform. But yeah, that's what I do at least. So for TradingView, I do have a subscription on TradingView. I don't know what it is. I think it is the CME subscription, and I have the Pro Plus, I don't know, version. But it's not that I use level 2 data on TradingView. For TradingView, I just need the candles, to be honest. And then I need the CME bundle for Atlas. So you get that via your broker. So for me, I'm trading on AMP, and when you sign up through AMP, they will ask you if you want to buy a data subscription package, and I've chosen the CME bundle. I think it's about $39 per month, something along that lines. It's not too expensive considering the amount of data and value that you get. So it's fair price, in my opinion.
Yes, and on TradingView, there is a small subscription to pay, and if you want live price action on the future,
that's it.
Yeah, so there is a small, it's not necessarily level 2 data. I think it's just level 1 where you're getting price action. And now even there are some order flow tools being incorporated into TradingView. And Igor, I thought that would lead perfectly into our next question. What do you think about the TradingView footprint?
Well, if you share my screen, I can quickly show. Someone was asking for the daily point of control. So this chart here is the daily Bybit chart, okay, and you can see the so the way I like this, and I've explained it before, is with the volume. Okay, we have one for the delta as well, so this will be the delta of the candles. Very important, you should know, you should be aware of that, because we want to see that we have trap traders, trap longers, above and below price. But here is the auctions for the daily. So typically this is using quite a high tick size so that you can see the numbers, but this is TradingView, and I think they've done an amazing job of doing this. And you can see that the white-ish area is where volume is lower than where the value is. So value is acceptance, and then obviously the white is rejection. So you want to see on highs, okay, or lows, you want to see the white completely down there, okay? And then obviously for the point of controls, all you have to do is just extend. For example, here you have a untested point of control here because it's not been touched, and you touch it on this candle. So the point of control will be that yellow. So it goes from white to sort of like a darker shader all the way until it gets to the red point of control. And then you've got like and so on and so forth. There you go. So point of control higher, higher, higher. And here we have the point of control right at the high of this move at 74,500-ish. Okay, and then obviously you've got the candles for the delta. So this will give you the delta for the 30-minute. I'm looking here at. So you got, again, point of control in yellow here. And then this is just the buy and the sell for the candles. And you also have the same information here on yes, so I pay for the data. I get the data here too. If you connect with CKG, for example, you actually get the data from them, so you get the full depth of the market. But yeah, you can use everything. You've got the stacks imbalances. TradingView is really, really up their game. So even like TPO, you've got the sessions working really well. I'm just loading this one. So you, what I like about the TPO on TradingView is that it actually shows you like the midpoint, you know, the value. It actually labels them as well, and it keeps the chart very simple, very clean. So yeah, I do like it. I think they've done an amazing job, and you can hide price overall if you want. So yeah, they've done a really good job. I think the footbar print statistics would be a nice addition, but they've instead of having done here, they've actually added them below the candle, so you can see the total. I'm going to zoom in so you can see. So there you go. There's the delta for this bar, the total volume, and then it shows you the total buy and the total sell. And it's nice to see, like, for example, at the lows, you've got the, you know, like you can see the moves, you know, who's there, who's not. But yeah, it's very good. And I just while I'm while I'm here, this trade has been really well for today, so for the election day. So I bought this low at the open, the first pullback, the second pullback, and now we're just about to break this high. But this for me is resistance, so that's 3K. I think it's time to start thinking about closing this as we head towards the close now. But yeah, from A to B, and it's just really nice to see, you know, the pivot lows being brought up on a 3K move for the day. So yeah, TradingView, very good.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And we do have a lot of questions. I think we only have time for a couple more. And so I'm apologizing in advance if we are not able to get to your question. We are running up a little bit on our time, but I wanted to pick a couple more that I thought were really good questions. And they're all good questions, by the way. None of them are bad. All of these are great. But question for Severin from ZXRR, what time frame are you using for order flow entries? Is that the 1 minute or the 5 minute?
Yeah, so previously I was mostly focused on the 5-minute time frame because I had my separate scalping strategy on the 5-minute time frame. But now I transitioned a little bit more towards the 1-minute time frame. So I'm reading order flow on the 1 minute. And if I don't get a clear entry signal on the 1-minute time frame, I'm going to the next higher time frame, which for me is the 5 minutes. So I don't look at the 3-minute time frame and then see if I can find an entry on the 5 minute. But since I'm scalp trading ES and NASDAQ, 1 minute order flow for me is very good. What I would say though is if you are new to trading using order flow, try to master it on the 5 minute first, as that is sometimes a little bit more clean and clear, and then make your way down to the 1 minute time frame, as that's moving obviously a little bit faster and is a little bit more advanced, I'd say.
Awesome. Thank you. Daniel, one question for you from Less is More. I have a question concerning order flow data. I decided for Atlas, and each time Daniel tells in his streams and showing that there is huge volume pumping in and that traders are stuck in one direction, I try to follow on the 30-minute timeframes and see the quantities and delta on Atlas. But I always find different numbers and volumes. Is it normal to have different numbers between ExoCharts and Atlas, or is this due to different data providers?
Right, yeah. So we've heard this a few times, and it should be the same. So I've had different answers, but it should be the same information. But there are occasions where it is slightly different. If I'd have to like quote, obviously I don't work for X or anything like this, so I'd have to go back and try and find their exact quotes. But I would be able to do that. But offhand, if I can recall correctly, but I believe, Severin, you also know the answer for this, because I believe you've asked them the question as well. But if I remember correctly, they are essentially have like different, obviously they're taking it from the same exchange, but I believe that they can quote different data because at times they're getting different readings, something along these lines. I honestly can't remember off the top of my head their exact answer, but yeah, there are times when the data is given differently, and then there's obviously the question, well, who do you believe? And so I think you just got to don't know, like you just got to go for one of the platforms, I think, because I don't know who, wouldn't want to say like who to believe or who not to believe really, but yeah, I think really I'll find a quote that I was given from ExoCharts, because I'm going to misquote it otherwise, or trying to do it offhand.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. And I think from my perspective, it seems like they're with each of these platforms, they have data brokers, and the data brokers can have separate servers, right? So the servers are all different places. Some are in Europe, some are in US. Sometimes the servers go down and the data gets compromised. And so I've seen that happen many times. And that happens generally if there's super high volume, super high volatility. Um, the big players typically get priority on those things. And I think there's some over-the-counter transactions that could be going on as well behind the scenes that we're just not privy to because that's not available in the level 2 data. Also, there's things like iceberg orders and hidden orders and ladder entries. And so there's a bunch of different stuff going on, pushing and pulling on those data.
Love
But
those.
and they're great. And what I've noticed is that typically the ExoCharts, Atlas, and QT are not exactly the same, but they rhyme. Like they have similarities. They're pretty similar, within a few points, within a few ticks, whatever. But that'd be my perspective on it. And
Can I just add a comment there? And this
course.
is why I've slowly over time transitioned to just look at the CME, especially with BTC, because I love the fact that it's one price for all. And then what I do then eventually is, so I do my analysis on the CME, and then I transition those analysis towards Coinbase or Bybit or whatever exchange needs be, because it is the price. And you can go onto the CME website and you can cross-reference what the daily volume from yesterday was on the order flow. And it's always on par because it's the CME. So there's no discrepancies, which is nice to see. So for me, that was, a big shift from, checking all of these different exchanges, because there's just that thing of trust. You just don't know who to trust. Are they sending the data correctly, or are the APIs moving, properly? You just don't know. But the CME, obviously, you kind of has to trust CME because they're the big boys, right? So that's why I'm looking more and more and more on the CME futures for crypto, for example.
Yep. I trust CME. I do. Whether for better or for worse, that's one of the institutions that I do trust with their data. So yeah, I appreciate that. And I do want to say just again, apologies to everyone. We can't answer all of your wonderful questions. I'm going to try to answer some of these in the chat later on. So if you hear from me in the chat, that would be great. If I get a quick response, just letting you know. And with that, I just want to say a big thank you to Coach Igor, Coach Daniel, and Coach Severin for not only sharing their insights, but sharing how they're looking at these things, how they're using these amazing tools to benefit their own trading, and how we can all learn from that and grow as a community. So with that, I want to pass it over to Coach Daniel, Igor, and Severin. Maybe you guys can give your closing thoughts, and we'll go ahead and wrap it up.
Yeah, closing thoughts. I just look back through my DM conversation and just to say what the guy said to me. So when I was asking TradingView, Atus, and Exo are giving different things like, why is this? So he says that apparently they're all getting their information straight from the exchange, and he says that Exo Desktop and Atus are always the same. So if you notice that something's different between Atus and Exo, it's probably because you're looking at Exo Web, because they don't update, they're not working on Exo Web anymore. But if you ever see a difference between Atus and Exo Desktop, then there is something really bad going on, because he says that they are from all of the same data, so there should never be a difference. So all I would say, yeah, if you do notice a difference, then make sure you're looking at the desktop, and then if there's still a difference, then report it to Exo, because there's something, yeah, that shouldn't be the case. Just to mention that point. But yeah, at the end of the day, yeah, great stream. Was interesting to see everyone's like opinions, how they work it all out. And yeah, you can have like 3 different methods, but we all come to the same analogy of like longing, and we can have like one level that all three of us have used different methods to get to, but we all get the same trade. So that's always a nice way to look at things as well. So yeah, really interesting. And yeah, thank you ever so much.
Yep, I also enjoyed the stream, and I've actually taken quite a few notes on topics you were talking about for some statistics I'm going to run, because as you all know, I'm very interested in statistics, coming up with some very helpful statistics such as the A session point of control, and I have some new notes that could be really interesting. So that is something I will do. And other than that, I can just say, if you're interested in Autoflow, just give it a go. In my opinion, we have everything that you need to master Autoflow. And in my opinion, this can take you to the next level in trading. So yeah, that's my closing words.
All right, and from my side then, I mean, I echo all of your words as well. I mean, it's been a great stream. It is nice to see the three of us all using like the three softwares. Obviously, I was a really hardcore user of Atos. I mean, it's still my baby, but every time I try it now, it's just you know, QT is got the upper hand. You know, even between Exo. So I feel like I found a home with QT. But yeah, order flow can be quite overwhelming if you're looking at too many things, and you will forget out to take that trade. So I would say go easy, don't throw yourself and completely look at everything. I would go, you know, module by module to learn like each component and really practice that each component, and then you can at the end merge them all together, because you're not going to need them all together anyway. For example, like looking at net longs and net shorts with open interest, in my opinion, it's not needed. You might as well just look at open interest. So there's a lot of ways you can do it, but I would say just try and keep it as simple as possible. And if I can really push this, is like that TPO market profile, like you guys are using, Severin, you've got yours as well. You can get so much information out of that just one chart. Just add the second layer, which is that tape or the SF or, you know, bookmap, and then you're going to get such an exponential amount of data that you can really use live in the action. And you can't teach that side. You have to endure it. You have to, you know, put that repetition in. That will come with time. So don't get stressed on it. Don't get lost in it. Don't look at too many moving parts. Just go easy and steady. And yeah, let's see Bitcoin breaking 76K soon. That's my final thoughts.
Amazing. Yeah, the Trump pump is back.
Yeah, I will close my trade if you break the high again. I'm just going to move. My screen is being shared there. So currently, since the open, what a trade today. To be honest, this is actually I would call this a perfect trade, because we've got the open. We then had the back test. I didn't take profits. I was expecting that to go higher anyway, but VWAP was support, and then VWAP was support again. And you can see, like, pretty simple today was very much like, okay, what's the next support? Well, if you're above VWAP, you need to buy this market. Look at the close. Again, I'm going to repeat this. Look at the close, and I'm going to put that view up just before we go so that you really understand this. So I'm going to put this as a line, and I'm going to put it quite thick. So that line, I'm going to delete these two. So look at this, and I'm going to delete TPO as well. Watch. So you have the close. When I switch the chart to a line chart, look at that and look at the three entries. That's where you want to buy. This one was a little bit early, but then I was already in a winning position. And this is when you can enter a little bit early, because you're already in that position. But it's beautiful to see that the back test of the first back test is where you buy, and then you're expecting high. So that compound interest still comes in after. So really good to see. Yeah, and again, it's the CME, so it's beautiful. So those are my thoughts. Yeah, order flow is the king. So thank you guys, thank you team. As always, a nice to spend some time with you guys. And yeah, it's interesting to see that we went from Sierra charts to Exo charts to Adders and now Quantower, and soon potentially TradingView, because honestly, it's good. I like it. One-stop shop.
Yes, so watch this space. And just a quick observation I wanted to end with is that even though we're all using different platforms, especially the coaches, these are very profitable traders. And so no matter what platform you're using, there's a way to find profitability. There's a way to find edge. You just got to search for it. And as Igor said, put in that repetition and earn it in a way. So with that, I love my quotes. So I have a quote here to wrap us up. And this is from Paul Tudor Jones, one of the market wizards. And I think one of the most profitable traders currently alive, a hedge fund manager up in New York. And his quote is, "It's not about how much information you have, it's about how you act on it." And I think that's really important. It ties up our discussion today, because all this information that we're getting through order flow, it really is meaningless unless we're able to make a cohesive, high risk to return trading setup that we can act on. And so I think you guys have displayed that really, really well. And so I just want to say thank you to each of you for being here. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and your opinions, as well as your templates. And thank you everyone who's tuned in. We really, really appreciate your feedback, your comments, your encouragement, and your questions. A big, big thank you to the community. And with that, I think that's going to wrap our roundtable for this month.
Thank you ever so much,
Perfect.
everyone.
Goodbye, everyone. See you tomorrow.
See you
Goodbye
tomorrow.
and thank you.